Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the No Name Music Cast. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
And once again, welcome to our show, our independently made show that we do every week just for fun. But we are glad that you are listening, and you're glad that you are enjoying it.
Are you trying to tell them no billionaire conglomerates have bought the No Name Music Cast yet?
No, I mean, we was offered. Some guy that owns an electric car company tried to bid the podcast, but I turned it down. I mean, I just want to remain independent. I don't want it to turn into something weird and stuff.
Yeah, we don't want to start putting cards for electric. We don't want to put ads for electric cars or anything in the podcast. So we decided it was probably in our best interest to not do it.
Exactly. Pay $8 a month for a blue check on the podcast feed or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, as much as we would like to let you guys know we're official, I don't think that's necessary, Tim. We could just start a Patreon or something.
Yeah. And at least with a Patreon, if people want to contribute, they can, or if they don't want to. We're not thinking of doing that yet, but maybe at some point we might develop that idea. I don't know.
I'm just saying, if they're going to have to pay $8, I'd rather go to Patreon than the guy who makes electric cars.
Well, that's true.
My brain just went, it's electric. As soon as I said that. Anyway, all right, moving along.
Exactly. So, talking of our listeners, our loyal listeners who tune into us every week, I understand that, Joy, you've had some requests for a new quiz or requests for a new way to start the show. Is that correct?
So it's questions for Tim.
Oh.
Really, that's all it is. It's just a bunch of questions for Tim. People want me to ask Tim and him to answer. And I got quite a few. I'll ask a few. I feel like one has some hidden innuendo that I don't get, and Tim's going to crack up when I say it. Or there's some reason I'm being told to ask this question, and it's probably going to be something silly. So let me start by saying I didn't understand the question. I'll tell you what I thought it was, and then later found out that's not what it was. So Phil Reese, who is a longtime listener, goes all the way back to the beginning, asked me, who invented the skip? And told me to ask him that.
I mean, I don't bloody know. Bobby Moore. I don't know who invented the skip.
Well, the problem, okay, then why was this supposed to be funny? The problem was I didn't know what a skip was. And I went, the button? Like the button on a CD player? He's like, no. So then he posts a picture of a dumpster. And I was like, oh, well, in America, those are dumpsters. What the heck's this skip?
This is a Alan Partridge question.
Oh, okay.
Where he
I should have
has a
figured
phone
it out.
in, and it's him and the farmers. And then they're saying he's been saying bad things about farmers. And then his quiz on Cockadoodle Who is who invented the skip. And then the guy says, I don't bloody know Bobby Moore. You're going to apologize to all the farmers for what you said on your show.
I'm going to go back and rewatch because I totally went with me. But I think it was lost on me because I'm like, what the heck is a skip? I'm thinking like on the CD player who invented the skip button.
Yeah, in the UK, a dumpster is called a skip.
I realize this now, and then Phil said I can send his response in a sealed envelope. I was told to tell you that.
Okay.
Right.
No.
So there we go. There's that joke. Now this one, we have a two-parter from my twin sister, Brady, who is a loyal listener, and all of her kids are. One of them makes me angry, and the other one's just kind of funny. She goes, does England actually have coffee, or was Tim lying in that episode? That's your question.
I can confirm right now, England does indeed have coffee. The coffee that was in our house growing up was Nescafe. And it used to be mostly instant coffee growing up in the 70s and 80s. But as you got into the sort of the 90s and the 2000s, you had your Costa coffees and your Starbucks appear out of nowhere selling gourmet style coffee. And then you could buy all kinds of stuff in supermarkets. So I can confirm the coffee beverage drink is available in the UK. However, predominantly, I would say tea is the main hot beverage of the two, I would probably think.
All right, so that can be laid to rest. There is coffee in England. Now, Brady asked this one because she knew it would make me angry. This is a throwback to the hot dog sandwich debate. She said she heard this on one of those morning zoo shows we joke about. Is cereal soup?
Is cereal soup?
This one makes me angry.
Well, I suppose, how do you define soup? Do you define soup as a savory product? Or do you just define it as objects suspended in a liquid?
Well, let's see. It's the definition. I'm Googling the definition of soup, everybody. My browser is going to be like, you have asked me the weirdest stuff in the near, like, it's the podcast. Cereal. Well, I guess. Oh, wait. I Googled the definition of cereal instead of soup, everybody. Not what I meant. A liquidy dish typically made of boiled meat, fish, or vegetables in a stock or water. But see, milk's not a stock or water.
No, it's water-based.
I mean, I guess, but I absolutely will never say cereal is soup. The concept of that makes my skin crawl. I can't tell you why I don't like it.
Well, the thing is, I don't really like soup.
I don't really like cereal.
I consider soup, hot soup in its traditional sense, a savory drink.
Ew, a drink?
Yeah, because, I mean, like, you think like tomato soup. What is tomato soup? It's a savory drink.
But if I see someone drinking it out of a cup, I'm going to lose my mind.
Well, that happens, though. Because, like, you sometimes go to restaurants and you get, like, especially, like, what we like. We went to Hatfield and McCoy's dinner show in Pigeon Forge. And then they give you some kind of soup affair in a small little cup. And they don't give you a spoon. It's for drinking.
I don't like this concept, which, I mean, think about Asian cultures and miso soup, all that stuff. They drink them like a broth. But that's not... To me, that's more of a broth than like a soup. I don't know, Tim, but if I see you over there sipping clam chowder, we're going to have a problem.
Yeah, I would come back with, is cereal soup, by saying that soup is a savory drink.
So, and see, I don't like cereal. There's my hot take. I don't like cereal at all.
Oh, I like cereal. I eat bran flakes almost every morning, and occasionally I'll have Cocoa Pops.
Of course you do. That sounds like a Tim thing if I've ever heard it. All right. Let's pick one more. I'll pick one more question. We have quite a few. We'll save some for the next time. This one is from Sarah Petrick. She's asking, what is your favorite music from Knight Rider?
My favorite music from Knight Rider is probably Laura Branigan's Self-Control.
Is there a reason, or do you just really like that song?
I really like that song. But there's a particular driving scene where they're playing Self-Control by Laura Branigan, and he's driving through the desert in Kit. And it's just like, that song is such a defining 80s song, and it has such an 80s sound about it. And it's David Hasselhoff. He's in Kit. He's got the big bouffant hair. He's driving through the desert, and it has that really great shot of the front driver's side wheel, and you see the scanner going off. And I don't know, when I hear that song, it just takes me to that moment in time. And I've always said, when I get my Trans Am, not if, when I get my Trans Am, the first thing I'm going to do is put Laura Branigan's Self-Control on and drive off into the rain or something. Yeah.
Whatever it may be. All right. So those were, I guess we'll just call it Tim's questions of the week. I just put it out there and said, what do you guys want me to ask Tim? And that's what everybody put. There's about 4 other questions that I think there may be more added before next time. So we will continue in the future.
Okay. Well, there they are. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions with my probably shaky responses.
And if you, I know every time you ask me a question, I'm like, I'm not sure that's what they wanted me to say. But also soup, cereal, not the same thing. I will never stand by this concept. Moving along.
But soup is a savory drink. Okay, there we go.
No, I don't want to think of it as a drink either. I just have like an image of you like drinking clam chowder. Please stop. All right, Tim has the topic tonight.
Okay, so this week's topic, this is one that we've touched on before. And in fact, we touched on it in the very first episode ever of the No Name Musicast. And I thought it would be a good idea to revisit it, especially since it was the induction ceremony only a few days ago. So this week's episode, we're going to be talking about the 2022 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductions.
I kind of thought that one was going to come back up because it's been all the rage recently.
Exactly. So what I've done is all the people that are inducted, or nearly all the people that are inducted, I've got a song from their back catalogue that we can discuss. And also some of the folks in the induction ceremony, I won't say shenanigans happened, but there was various things that happened at the induction ceremony that are worthy of discussion.
All right. I've seen a little bit, so I've got some knowledge. Let's do this.
Okay, so I'm going to start it off with Duran Duran. Now, Duran Duran obviously were inducted. Their performance apparently at the ceremony was not that great because they opened up with Girls on Film, and then they had some kind of technical difficulties and they had to stop the song halfway through.
That's awkward. Because this is when you're being like honored because you're supposed to be the greatest. Yeah,
exactly. And then they went back in with Hungry Like the Wolf and Ordinary World. The other thing that happened is that their original guitar player, Andy Taylor, was the original member of Duran Duran. He left, and then he was replaced by a guy called Warren Cucurulo. I can't even pronounce the guy's name. And he was their guitar player for a while. And then when sort of Duran Duran sort of came back to being Duran Duran again, Andy Taylor came back to be their guitar player. Now, sadly, he's battling stage 4 prostate cancer, so he could not be at the ceremony, which was very sad indeed.
Yeah, and I had saw his name a few times saying that he had stage 4 cancer. It's prostate cancer too, so that's usually pretty rough.
Exactly. So it was a good night to celebrate Duran Duran, but sadly, very sad for Andy and the band and his family and what have you. But we are going to talk about Duran Duran. And I think that Duran Duran is probably not an act that has necessarily come up before in our podcast. What do you think, Joy?
Not really, but to be fair, and maybe this is an American observation, I kind of think of them as only having like 4 or 5 songs that I'm super familiar with, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I have an album of theirs called Decade, which I bought, funnily enough. Well, the copy I have now I bought off the internet, but my original copy was bought from Woolworths in Twickenham, which is somewhere which we haven't discussed, which is not far from Hounslow, but that was my original copy. The Woolworths is no longer even in business, but anyhow.
They're not in business anymore, are they?
No, Woolworths are long since gone. But the Decade album, which is like a best of type thing, that has sort of everything you need from Duran Duran on it. I think it has 12 or 15 tracks on like it. And every single one is like bam, 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 bam. Absolutely great. But the track that I picked out, and it actually comes from that Decade album, is their song from 1983, and that's Union of the Snake.
I'm familiar with that song. That's a good choice. You don't hear that one as much as some of their like, you know what I mean? Girls on Film, Hungry Like the Wolf, Come Undone. I feel like you hear those a lot more on the radio.
Exactly. That's why I picked it out. And again, you'd like the ones they performed, Girls on Film, and what did I say it was? It was Hungry Like the Wolf and Ordinary World.
Yeah. Well, the Reflex, that's a big one too.
Yeah, I love the Reflex. That's a great song.
It gets stuck in my head and I go, the Reflex.
Flex, 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 flex. and also Duran Duran, the top 3 Bond songs, A View to a Kill. That's such a great song.
Oh, yeah. We've talked about that one plenty of times on the podcast. Oh, Rio. Yeah. Rio's a Duran Duran song, right?
It is indeed.
Maybe they have more music than I gave them credit for. Now that you put me on the spot, I'm sitting there going, oh, yeah.
In some music circles, they're referred to as the Fab Five.
Is it because they're English New Wave?
Yeah, and then there's 5 of them and that kind of stuff.
That's fair. I just associate them with that 80s kind of new wave. They definitely have Block of Seagull kind of hair thing. That's what I see Duran Duran as.
Absolutely. And Simon Le Bon used to race sailing boats. And do you know what the name of his sailing boat was?
No.
Drum.
I don't know why, but that made me laugh. Okay, here's a question. So, like sailboats.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to. Do people typically name them after like Sarah, or do they name them after things, or is there like a common thing? Like, because like horses, like race horses, have the weirdest names, and I'm like, where are people coming up with this? Where do you get your sailboat names?
I don't know. I mean, Simon Le Bon is not a drummer, so I don't know why he would call his boat Drum. I don't know.
It made me laugh when you said it for some reason.
Yeah,
here's the thing, though. So, like, your sailboat's winning. You're like, go, Drum, go. But like, it'd be kind of weird if they were like, "Go, Sarah, go," and then like actual Sarah's like, "What am I doing?" I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but you're right about racehorses. They have wacky names.
Yes, it'll be like the strangest thing. Like I can't even Whispers of the Moon or something.
Yeah,
it's a bad name.
Midnight Coalition or some nonsense like that.
I want to know if there's a horse just named Drum, and if there isn't, I'm going to name one.
Absolutely, yeah, there's going to be.
It's funny. No, they have the weirdest names, but I mean, that's probably part of the fun. I kind of think racing horses is gross because of the whole, like, some of the stuff they put the horses through, but like, that might be part of the fun. It's just figuring out what you're going to name them.
Exactly. Well, there we are. Well, I'm glad we've covered racehorse names both.
Not related at all to Duran Duran. That's the next artist, Tim.
Okay. So this is a twofer. So this is Pat Benatar and Neil Giraldo. I think we touched on them on your Women Who Rock episode.
Yes.
But they were both inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And of course, Neil Giraldo is Pat Benatar's husband. Mm-hmm. They started 43 years ago. And he is like co-writes all the songs with her, and he's primarily a guitar player, and obviously she's primarily a singer, though obviously she plays guitar as well. So I'm going to first of all let's Neil Giraldo. So I picked out a Pat Benatar song which has some guitar playing on it, if you will, and that is "Heartbreaker,"
which is a great song.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Did you pick out? Did he write on it or anything, or do you like to see? Does Neil have a certain thing to this song, or do you even know?
Well, I picked it out because it of the catalog of songs that I could think of, it has some very defining guitar parts on it.
That makes sense because you're right though. You don't really see her. She's mostly singing, but I kind of forget that she plays the guitar until last week. Well. It would be last week for you guys, but I guess it was last week for us too. We were talking about it in the Women Who Rock episode. I kind of forgot she even plays the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
So does he play the guitar on this, or does she play the guitar on this?
I believe he does. I think much of the studio stuff, he is a primary guitar player.
Fair enough. What I really, though, like about this song is the quality and the rhyming. You're a heartbreaker, dream maker, love taker. Don't mess around with me, because me definitely rhymes with taker. Like it's like 3 major rhymes and then it just goes me. You ever noticed that, Tim, or is that just something I noticed?
No, I've noticed that too. It's lyrical genius. It's contemporary rock poetry, if you will.
And then don't you mess around. No, no, no.
This is high end stuff. Let me tell you.
I think what's weird about it is kind of like there's like a jealous fixation between like the verses have like pretty good meat to them, but then the chorus is just so chunky like that. Do you know what I mean? It just kind of makes me laugh. But that's what you want in a chorus, right? Because I guarantee you, if you guys didn't recognize that song when Tim said it, when I just said that out loud, now it's in your head.
Yeah, 100%. It's that chorus is you're a heartbreaker.
One day somebody's just going to pull out all the segments of Tim doing impersonations. And that's what's going to be on the Patreon.
Oh, goodness me.
And for Brandy, we'll have to put right at the beginning Tim's vampire impression that gave her a heart attack.
I'm not human, Suki. I'm vampire.
She was like, what's that? Oh, God. Okay, I get it now. And so that was probably Heartbreaker would have been what, late 70s?
It's 79.
See, y'all, I knew, because she has kind of like, she's one of those people that's got like the ebbs and flows in her career. And so that would have made sense for her. I love that song, though.
It's a good song. And then for Pat Benatar herself, I picked out the song Love is a Battlefield. And again, I think we spoke of that in your Women Who Rock episode, but that is from 1983. It certainly has 80s production sheen about it, but it is still an iconic song.
So Love is a Battlefield. So we did talk about it on the episode, but that episode, the one I did about the music, Women Who Rock, was very like you know what I mean, fact heavy, because I wanted to get all the facts in to solidify these people. So it's nice to actually get to talk about the music and change it up a little bit. I mean, I can't think of Love is a Battlefield without thinking of the movie 13 Going on 30. I don't know if you've ever watched 13 Going on 30, Tim, but basically she's 13. She wishes she was older. She wakes up at 30 and she's like, you know, a 13-year-old stuck in a 30-year-old's body type situation. And at one point in the movie, she's inviting her friends over. And so because she's a 13-year-old, she's still stuck in the 80s with the kind of the songs. And she teaches, she brings a bunch of kids, like, it sounds weird, but she brings a bunch of younger kids over. I think she's babysitting them or whatever. And then at one point she busts this song out and teaches it all to them because it's such a fun song. And they didn't know it because it was from the 80s. It was a flashback to the fact that she's a 13-year-old. And for some reason, now when I hear this song, that's all I think of. It's a really cute scene. It sounds kind of weird when I explain it, but I think she was like babysitting them or something. Okay. So that's what I think of when I think of this song.
I can honestly tell you, I've never even heard of that film.
Oh, I could tell. That doesn't surprise me. There's also a part where they're at a party, and the DJ's throwing out tracks, and nobody's dancing. Everybody's being all like, just kind of sitting there, kind of be the cool kids on the wall type situation. But because she's 13, she doesn't get that concept. So he puts Thriller on and she starts doing the Thriller dance. And that's what brings everybody else out to the dance floor.
Ah, okay.
There you go. Fabulous. Tim, you didn't know you were going to learn that tonight, did you?
Exactly. Every podcast recording is like a Pandora's box of joy facts that are waiting to be opened.
Joy doesn't know what a skip is. It's weird that it's called a skip, though. Like, I wonder where that comes from.
Growing up, I'd never really heard of dumpster. It was only in the advent of like the internet and stuff.
Where the heck does dumpster come from? Like,
well, because you dump trash in it, so it's dumpster.
It does. I guess that's true, but it's still kind of a random word as well. Skip is weird because the only thing that came to mind was I was like, you want me to ask Tim why there's who invented the skip button? And then I was sitting thinking, like, does he mean like when you skip like with your legs, like a little kid skip? A lot of things went through my brain when people asked that question, but not a dumpster. Is there other weird, like, if you could think of one other weird thing like that, Tim, that like if you said it to me, I'd probably have zero concept of it. What would it be?
Trolley.
Well, I know that's like the train thing, right?
No.
Oh, or is that the 18-wheeler?
No.
That's a lorry. Dang it. What's a trolley?
A trolley. A trolley is what you get in a supermarket and you put your shopping in it. Oh,
I call that a buggy.
Well, you'd call it a cart, maybe.
Well, no, people from the South, that's a buggy. A shopping cart is a northern thing, too.
Okay. Well, anyway, but either way, it's a trolley, not either of those. Yeah,
that's one of those weird ones that people still think. The ones from the South that I say differently than Charlie does, yes, this is such a hot topic, I know, totally related to music, is I grew up calling washcloths rags. A buggy is like a shopping cart. There's probably a few other ones that I could think of, but those are the two big ones. Yeah. So, yeah, I would have a trolley, though, I would have thought was like a train, like a tram type situation.
Yeah, it's what you get from Tesco's. You put your pound coin in it, you get it out, you go around Tesco's and you buy all your shopping and then you pay and then you put it in the boot of your car and then you take it back and get your pound coin back.
Aldi's the only shopping place around here who does the coin thing, and that's because they're from Europe.
Yeah, all the supermarkets in the UK, you have to put a pound in it.
I mean, it kind of makes sense, though, because they're trying to save money, so they don't want to pay people to go get the carts. I get it. But, I mean, I guess a trolley could be something that runs you over if you've got somebody going at high speed with it.
I mean, that's true.
And nothing's worse than if someone hits you in the back of your ankles with the shopping cart. Have you ever had that before, Tim?
I don't think I have, but I'd imagine you probably have.
Painful. Because it's like, when something catches the back of your ankle, like somebody steps on your shoe or like the door catches it, and it, no matter what the situation is, when it catches the back of your ankle, it's so painful. When someone runs at you with their shopping cart and hits the back of your ankles, it's one of the worst feelings. And I don't suggest doing that to others if you're trying to figure out what that feels like. Just don't test it.
There we are. There's some advice from Joy.
Don't do it. It's painful and you'll end up bleeding.
Okay. All right. Well, let's. Shall we talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, Joy?
I had one today. All right. What's next?
Okay. So this one is Judas Priest. Now, Judas Priest were inducted, commemorating the band's induction via the Musical Excellence Award.
Mm.
So they reunited with their former guitarist KK Downing, and they was also inducted. Their late drummer Dave Holland was also inducted, and also Glenn Tipton, who was their touring guitar player for many years, but he had to step down in 2018 because he has Parkinson's. Now, he is still officially a member of the band. I think he appears on their in recordings that they've done recently, but because of his poor health or fading health, he can't tour anymore. But he got up there and rocked with them. And their sort of touring guitar player, a guy called Andy Sneap, he was a gentleman and stepped off away from the ceremony. So Glenn Tipton could sort of have the limelight as he should.
Awesome. So here's a question about Judas Priest for you, Tim. Mm-hmm. Do you think of them as heavy metal, rock? Where do you put them in the genres?
They are the new wave of British heavy metal. The same kind of genre as Spider and also Iron Maiden.
That's where I would probably put them, yeah.
And that kind of stuff. It's that. Some would say that early Def Leppard is a new wave of British heavy metal, but certainly Judas Priest is most certainly that genre.
Okay, I was just curious because that's kind of like a debated topic. I wanted to see where you sit with it.
Yeah, and I mean, not only their music but their look. And that kind of image that they portrayed, it was very much that kind of thing at the time.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, what's the song?
Okay, well, I was just going to say, they according to this reports, they blazed their way through a 3-song set. They didn't just play, they blazed their way.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't know. It's, for a metal band, if you're blazing your way through the set, I think it's fantastic.
That's true. Fair enough.
So they did You've Got Another Thing Coming. They did Breaking the Law. And they also did the song which I picked out, which is Living After Midnight.
That's like one of your favorites by them. I feel like you've said that one before, Living After Midnight.
Yeah.
Don't you love that song? Yeah,
that's a good song. I mean, I like Breaking the Law as well. And their cover of the Green Manalishi is pretty good too.
I do. I've actually heard that. That's really cool too. I will say Living After Midnight is probably my favorite by them. Because once again, I will say their song, that one specifically, the Living After Midnight, Rocking to the Dawn, it like sticks in my brain. Even though I'm not big into, I would say, metal or whatever you call these guys, new wave metal. I'm not a big Judas Priest fan. I'm familiar with them, of course. I mean, Breaking the Law is a song I think everybody knows. But that Living After Midnight, Rocking to the Dawn is one of my favorite kind of like song lyrics. And it sounds so cool when they play it.
Yeah, it is a great song. It's iconic. And I think other bands have covered it and stuff, but just their look. I mean, these days, I mean, some would say their look looks very tired, but, the leather, the studs, the whole of that kind of, that is so iconic of that era of metal.
But would you want, if I were going to go see Judas Priest, that would be what I'd want to see. I want to see their leather and their studs. They kind of had, that one guy always wore like the little hat and they had like the little arm things and like kind of like almost looked like spacesuits, kind of like the arm pad things over their shoulders. And then now they're a little older, so I think they don't do all of that, but they're still very leathery. That would be what I'd want to see, right? Wouldn't that be half of what seeing Judas Priest is?
Absolutely. It was like Kiss. I mean, Kiss for a while dropped the makeup. And like, if you see Kiss, you want to see the Space Ace. You want to see the Star Child. The Demon. That's who you want to see. The Catman. You want to see those characters. That's what you pay your money for. If you go and see Kiss and they're out of makeup, it's just not the same. And I think you're right. If you go and see Priest or another band that are like that have a very iconic look, that's what you go for.
I totally expect there to be smoke on the stage. That one guy's like on the motorcycle with his arm in the air. Do you know what I'm talking about? That Judas Priest picture, like where he's like, it's all like he's playing and he's like on a motorcycle. Have you seen that before?
Yeah, the singer Rob Halford. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I want. And if I don't see it, I'm going to be disappointed. Like, I'm just saying that's what I expect if I'm going to go see them. So that doesn't surprise me. And I mean, I've heard they perform pretty well now. I haven't heard anything like that. It sounds like they did great at the introduction. They don't have any weird controversies about theirs, I guess.
No, and they released an album a few years ago. I think it was called Power Rage or Power something. I think maybe it was Power Rage. Anyhow, but it was really good, and it came out in the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I heard that there was a lot of praise from across the board from fans and from like the experts that it was a great album.
Yeah, they're a great band, great live band, and they have those iconic hits in their back catalogue.
And who doesn't love Leather and Spikes?
Nobody. Everybody loves it.
That's my hot take. All right. What's our next artist, Tim?
Okay. The next artist who was inducted is Carly Simon. Now, Carly Simon didn't appear at the ceremony, though she sent a video message because she just lost both of her sisters in the same week to cancer. So very, very sad for the Simon family. And obviously she's not in a good place to be performing and doing all that kind of stuff. So there was two artists that performed Nobody Does It Better. Well, one did Nobody Does It Better, and then one did You're So Vain. Sadly, I have not heard of either of these artists. Maybe you can fill me in. Olivia Rodrigo and Sarah Bareilles.
So Olivia Rodrigo is she's very young, Tim. You would know she actually is the one, I think, hold on. Let me Google this before I say this. She actually is the one that did that song that everybody said sounded exactly like the Paramore song. Do you remember that? We talked about it, I think. She did a song, the Paramore song Misery Business?
No.
I'm in the misery business. It's shining from the top. She's got a body anyway, that song. She did a song that sounds really, really, really close to that. It's called Good For You. And it was funny because it come out and people my age, because, I was in the pop punk type music whenever I was younger, were like, this is, wow, we love this. We love this. And then one day it started dawning on people, oh, wait, it's the same song. She ended up having to add them to the credits because it got so heated about it. So Hayley Williams, who's from Paramore's the lead singer, and Josh Farro, also from Paramore, ended up being added to her credits because it was so close. And that was probably last year that song came out. So it doesn't surprise me that you don't know her. Now, Sarah Bareilles, is that who you said, right? Sarah Bareilles?
Yeah.
I'm surprised. You probably do know her song. She's a songwriter. She's been out for a long time. But she did a whole musical, the musical Waitresses on Broadway. And she did that song. Oh, what is that one then? I'm going to be honest with you. She's not my favorite, but there's one song that she had that was everywhere. I'm trying to think of what it was. It doesn't matter. She's like a radio hits kind of person. Like if you heard her song, you probably know who she was, Tim. But I actually know her more she wrote a bunch of music for musicals, and she plays the piano really well. She's like a great piano player. I think it's I don't want to write you a love song because you asked for it because you need it. That song.
No,
never mind, Tim. Just forget it. That's her. But she actually wrote that song because when she was trying to come out as an artist, they told her she needed to write a love song. I don't want to write you a love song because you asked for it, you needed it. And that ended up being her number one hit, her very first hit.
Well, there we go. Well, I watched the video of this, researching this episode, and saw some photographs of both those people, and I was not sure where it's from.
I'm surprised you didn't. I mean, I've heard that song about 1 million times. It's not my favorite. She did a cover of Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. That was pretty good. And I could see her doing a good Carly Simon because she has that kind of feel. Were the performances any good? Did you watch them?
Oh, I mean, the performances were fantastic. I mean, they were both great singers, but to be honest, if they walked in this room right now, I wouldn't know who they were.
Well, I will say of the two, Sarah Bareilles would be somebody I would pick to do a cover of Carly Simon because she kind of has that folksy sound going for her.
Exactly. Well, and then coming back to Carly Simon, the song that I picked out for Carly Simon was "Coming Around Again."
Oh, that's a good one. So I have to apologize to Tim and the No Name Music because I got thrashed the last time I said I don't know that much Carly Simon songs. There's an episode where Tim came for because I'm just not as familiar with her as I'd like to be, but I am familiar with that song and it's a good choice. I don't know why. Because I mean, she was married to James Taylor, right?
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, in a lot of her early recordings, James Taylor plays guitar and sings backing vocals on and stuff. But I mean, they're no longer together, and I think it was not a good split, from what I understand.
Well, what I was going to say is I kind of even know her more from the fact that because isn't that what people there's a saying that You're So Vain might be about James Taylor?
I don't think it is. She sold that knowledge for charity to somebody, and I think it's out there who it's about. There was a rumor that it was Warren Beatty, and there was a rumor
That's
that it was
one that
about,
I heard. Yeah,
yeah, and also about Mick Jagger as well. Because she was because when You're So Vain was being recorded, she was seeing Mick Jagger, and Mick Jagger sings backing vocals on You're So Vain.
that would be funny if it was about him. Which, if it was, it would be humorous because Mick Jagger is somebody that you imagine could steal a room, would want all eyes on him. He's so like over the top. Might not be like an actual romantic relationship. It's just an observation about a person.
Yeah.
So that one would be, I had heard the Warren Beatty one, and then I thought I'd heard maybe James Taylor, but it doesn't matter. Back to the coming around again. I always just remember, I always thought it was random that the first line just says baby sneezes, mommy please, or mummy please, or something like that.
Baby sneezes.
I don't know why, but that always stuck out to me as like the most random opening to a song.
I think it's about her family or something like that because the video has like home movie footage of her when she was really little.
I mean, I'm sure it probably is because it's talking about, playing the game. It's talking about a broken heart, rooms. I just remember the first time I heard it, I was like, was the first line of that baby sneeze? I don't know why that stuck out to me.
But it's a great song from 1987. I remember when that was in the charts, and I remember it being on top of the pops, in fact.
Well, she writes all of her own music, right?
Sure, yeah. I mean, she's an incredibly accomplished songwriter.
That's what I say. I kind of think of her more for her songwriting skills than I think her actual singing.
And also, she is responsible for the joint first and second best Bond song.
Oh, yeah. What was it, Tim? You talked about it on one of the episodes.
Yeah, Nobody Does It Better.
Yeah. Well, Tim, I mean, that alone should have got her the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame right there.
Yeah. She didn't write that. So that was written by Marvin Hamlish, who was a composer. But anyhow, her performance of it is superb.
It was, and it sounds really like when I think of Carly Simon, she's not someone I think of doing a James Bond song because it doesn't really fit her vibe. But then you go back and listen to that, and it's perfect.
Yeah, and plus it's from The Spy Who Loved Me. It's a Roger Moore film. And as we all know, the only James Bond films worth watching are the ones with Roger Moore in them.
Who didn't see that ad-lib coming at the end there? It all comes back full circle, everybody.
All the way around.
Tim took that and he ran with it, and then he went all the way around. Boom. I mean, I love it. Yeah, and I mean, like you said, I did see that two of her sisters passed, which is sad. So she's probably having a rough go of it, but she's probably in her 70s, Carly Simon?
I believe so, yeah.
So, I mean, not that makes it any easier. I'm just thinking she's probably, because she's been around since, I mean, she's probably born in like the 40s and then maybe 60s into 70s is what she hit the beginning of her career.
Absolutely.
Well, Carly Simon, we want you to stay around for a little bit longer and play more music for us.
Absolutely. 100%. Okay.
And I always liked her hair.
Well, there we go.
Anyway, back to the next song.
Yeah. So this is the next person that was inducted. And this is Lionel Richie. Now, Lionel Richie, as you know, is customary at these events, people perform, and sometimes bands get back together who haven't seen each other for years and years and years. But he performed Hello, which was his 1983 hit. And then he did a version of the Commodores song Easy. But the coolest thing about this, Easy has a very identifiable guitar break in it.
Yeah.
And who comes on stage to play the guitar solo? Somebody who never normally plays guitar solos, Dave Grohl.
What the? Of all, for some reason, I thought you were going to say Nile Rodgers, but I'll give you that one. That one was not expected at all.
Yeah, and I found a video. I mean, the videos of the ceremony currently are just bootlegs of people on their phones.
Yeah.
It will come out on HBO, and they do a whole presentation of it. So I've just seen like audience recordings. But I mean, I said Dave is known as a drummer, guitarist, singer, frontman, songwriter, etc. He's not known as a soloist. That's not
even a little bit, yeah.
No, but I mean, he nailed that solo. It was great, and in fact, that when you watch the clip, Lionel Richie's really enjoying Dave playing so much. He said, "I'll play some more." So like
awesome.
Dave's sort of like shredding some more lead on it. It's really cool.
Well, I mean, he's been playing guitar for how long now? It's not too shocking that he'd be fantastic, but you're right. It doesn't really seem to be in his lane. Now, Lionel Richie is one of those people that he has two types of songs for me. There are songs that I absolutely adore, or songs that I could go without ever hearing again. And I would say "Hello" is probably one I could go without ever hearing again.
Yeah, but it has that great guitar solo on it, though.
I mean, that's fair. I'll give you that. But it's just like, and then whenever Adele did the Hello song, Adele had a Hello song, I kept waiting for like some massive mashup of the two, but I never got it.
I'm sure if you look on the YouTubes, there's probably someone that's done that.
And if there isn't and someone steals that, I expect royalties.
Well, here's the question, Joy. Where does the song I picked out for Lionel Richie land in this landscape of Lionel Richie songs that you love or you hate, or not hate, but you'd rather not hear again? This is All Night Long, All Night from 1983. Where does that land?
It's one of my favorites. I could hear that a million times. That and Dancing on the Ceiling. I could hear both those songs 1,000 times and I'd be very happy.
Yeah, I was on the fence of whether to pick Dancing on the Ceiling, but I thought All Night Long, All Night is a absolute identifiable classic.
Well, and one thing I will say, Lionel Richie also writes music for other artists. And he's saying backup and everything. He's a wonderful artist, but he has a groove to his songs. Like, I don't know how I categorize him. Do I categorize him as R&B? Do I categorize him as pop? I don't know where you see him at in the category, but he always kind of has like a cool groove to his music.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking in my iTunes library for the song I picked out, and it's saying it's pop soul.
That makes sense because it's a little bit of both. Because, I mean, the chorus is literally just all night long, all night. Yeah. So, it's like he has like a vibe to his music that makes him very soul feeling. And it's kind of a throwback to, the Commodores, but like Motown as a whole. So I feel like that's why I'm a big. And then, he also was one of the big people on We Are the World, one of me and Tim's other favorites. He's a big known face there. But People Dance in the Street, See the Room in the Feet, Life is Good, like great, upbeat, but also, like I said, very popish, but soul driven.
Exactly. And to say about We Are the World, he co-wrote We Are the World.
Which is amazing. And if you see him in that video, he's smiling the entire time, ear to ear, just so happy.
I had to watch We Are the World last weekend. I needed to see it again.
for good. I haven't done it in a while. I might have to watch after we get off of here. I go through about every 6 months or so, Tim, it comes back up and I have to rewatch it.
Because you're watching it and you're thinking, oh, this is pretty good. Then Kenny Rogers comes on. And then, of course, it goes through all the artists. And then you start getting into Ray Charles. And it's like, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
I mean, has there ever, I can't think of a time, it sounds like maybe award shows where there was that many artists singing together that were like, and it was like artists after artists, like mainstream artists.
I don't know. I do need to, I really do need to do the Band-Aid one. I need to give it the same rigor that I gave We Are the World. But my fear with doing the Band-Aid one is there's lots of artists there that didn't stand the test of time that I don't know if you knew who they would be.
Yeah, that would be interesting. No, what you should get me to do is, now we're going to talk about this episode before it even happens. I need to go and watch it, research it, and then we can do the episode.
Yeah, well, that's one that's been bubbling in my brain for a while. So don't steal my topic, Joy.
Which is on the next topic on the episode. But yeah, I love Lionel Richie. He's fantastic. He's wrote music, I think, for a lot of other artists too, or produced music, been behind a lot of things. Like, he's one of those people who has his name in a lot of places that you might not even realize.
Exactly. Yeah, he worked a lot with Kenny Rogers. I have a Kenny Rogers album, which is co-produced by Lionel Richie.
Well, there you go, everybody. I didn't even know that. I knew he worked with him, but I didn't know how much. And I'm sure if we go back far enough, we'll find out him, Kenny Rogers, and then the Gibbs brothers literally made the entire universe of that time period.
Exactly. And Nile Rodgers for the funky disco stuff.
Yep. That's what I thought you were going to say came out on guitar when you said they came out. I thought it was going to be Nile Rodgers.
Yeah, Nile probably is a very great soloist, but he's known for playing funky, clean Strat guitar. He's not a rock lead player type thing. That's
just not what he does. So that's why when you said it's somebody, that's where I thought you were going with that. And then when you said Dave Grohl, I was like, oh yeah, I would have never guessed that.
No, it was like, oh, fantastic.
Now, Say You, Say Me was, one of his original songs. Did Kenny Rogers do a version of that? He did, right?
Very possibly.
I think there's a Kenny Rogers version of Say You, Say Me. And I know it was done for a movie called The White Knight, which I would guarantee you Tim has no idea what that is.
No.
Anyway, moving along. I'm not going to spend 20 minutes talking about me trying to explain those last two artists and Tim going, still got nothing. I'm like, well, I give up. Now, here is a fact that I learned about Lionel Richie before we move along, Tim. Did you know he also plays the saxophone?
I didn't know that, no.
What was that I was watching? It's one of those, he was like a guest show host or something on one of the TV shows, and he's talking about he plays the saxophone.
Well, that's fantastic. In the same way that Shaka Khan is an amazing drummer, but Lionel Richie is a kicking sax player.
Watch that not be true. He made it all up. I go Google it. The internet's like, not true.
Yeah, nope.
All right. What is our next artist, Tim?
Okay, so this is the Eurythmics. Dave Stewart and Annie Lennox. Now, they performed at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame again. And they did Would I Lie to You, Missionary Man, and Sweet Dreams. And, Sweet Dreams is such an identifiable Eurythmics song. What's your thoughts on the Eurythmics before I declare the song?
I like them mostly because I just like the sound of her voice. I think she's got one of the most iconic, beautiful. We talk about new wave a lot. We kind of talk about male dominated things, but for females, she's one of those kind of a new wave artists that comes to mind.
Yeah, I mean, I find that her solo stuff, some of her solo stuff is good. That song Why she had, which is absolutely amazing. And it does showcase her amazing vocal skills. But I find she's better when she's in the Eurythmics and she's rocking with Dave Stewart. I think their partnership created some amazing music.
I agree with that. I prefer her in the band. But I will say, I just think she's a great artist in general and can do no wrong. So maybe that's, for me, it doesn't really matter.
Sure. Well, the track that I picked out for them, this is It's All Right, Baby's Coming Back, which is a very early song from the Eurythmics catalog.
I kind of remember it. I thought it was just It's All Right. I didn't know it had that whole long name. The only thing I really remember about it is the music video. Her head's in a big ball. And I think it's because I saw it on YouTube. It's got a very early 90s kind of look to that music video. But
it would be early 80s because it's a song I think it's 81 or 82. It's at the very beginning of their career.
Good Lord, that makes even more sense because it's very I don't want to say looks old, but it looks old.
It's literally 40 years old at this point.
There's no way the 80s was 40 years ago. No, I will not believe
Can I just go on record and say the 1980s was 15 years ago?
I was going to say 13, so you've got me beat. And I will not forget. It's crazy whenever people talk about the 90s to today is the same time as the 70s to the 90s or what. I'm like, no, you're not allowed to say that.
Well, we've mentioned before, I like Happy Days. The Happy Days is a program made in the 70s about life in the 50s. If you made Happy Days today, it would be set in the early 2000s.
How weird is that? It's such a weird. It's like when they tried to do that 70s show and then they were doing it as the 90s show. I don't think it really went anywhere because, the people from that 70s shows were adults. They were putting them in the 90s as adults. And I'm like, make it make sense. Make it make sense. But yes, the 80s were only 13 years ago, Tim, and I will not forget that.
There we are, see. We're time travelers or something like that.
Probably not. But I will say the video, and I think that, or maybe it's the album cover that she's in a big ball. And her face is blue and it looks old there. I just said it. That's kind of what I remember about this song. Was this a big hit for them or was it kind of in the middle?
No, it was a big hit at the very beginning of their career. I think it gets overshadowed by their sort of amazing catalogue of music they have. But it's why if it isn't their first hit, it's certainly somewhere near the very beginning of their hits.
Interesting. Like, I'm not super familiar with it. I'm gonna have to go back, listen, and I'll give you an actual official review of it. But I just remember the music video for whatever reason.
There we go. Well, there's a little bit of homework for you there, Joy.
I didn't know I was gonna get homework. All right, I'm writing it down, everybody. You heard the pin. The
she's actually writing it down.
Okay. It's okay. All right. I'm going to watch that later along with We Are the World. What's the next song?
Okay. So the next artist is an artist that I am not really a fan of. And I don't really know much about their music apart from one song I heard that I used to play with. That would be Eminem, somebody that is way out of my wheelhouse.
Okay, I guess I'll be the one speaking on Eminem. Did he perform?
He did, and he did a song which I'd never heard of called Sing for the Moment, which was from 2002. And apparently it has a sample of Aerosmith's Dream On it, which I've never heard this song. But for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony, Steven Tyler came on stage to sing that vocal part with it.
Because it goes, sing with me, swing for the years, sing for the laughter, sing for the tears, sing it with me just for today. Maybe tomorrow the good Lord will take it away. That's a section of that song, sampled right in the middle of that song. Because that was early 2000s, because that came out when I was probably like 12, 13 years old. So I heard it, you know what I mean? And yeah, there's a whole section. It doesn't really... I don't know of any other part. It does that, just that little piece, like 2 or 3 times throughout. And I guess that's kind of the chorus. Because, I mean, he's a rapper, so it's very lyric heavy, right? Like, there's those lyrics, and then there's that section. Then there's lyrics, and there's that section. So is that what they performed? That's the song they performed at the thing?
Yeah. That was the one that they did.
I'm surprised Eminem even showed up. He seems like the kind of person who would just skip it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. To be honest, I know nothing about him other than his name is Marshall Mathers. I do know that. And the one song which I picked out is that Shake That song.
That's the one song you know from Eminem?
Yeah, that's the one and only song I know. And I only know that because back when I was playing a lot of nightclubs with the last band I was in, DJs used to play it. So when I used to DJ the breaks on other gigs we did, I used to play it and people used to like it.
Well, that song is... it's him, but it's also Nate Dogg.
Yes.
Not him solo, but I mean, for those who don't know, I mean, it's literally called Shake That. What do you think it's about? I don't really feel like I need to get into the details. Right, Tim? I mean, it's just a song.
I think he's maybe mixing some kind of mixed juice drink, so he's got it in a shaker.
No, it's not.
But you know what's funny? We may have covered it before. The radio edit of that song is hilarious. It's shake that for me, shake that for me. It's up.
I wonder if there's a kids' bop version out there.
Yeah, it probably is.
Because, I mean, do they only... I need to go back and listen to that, too, because I wonder, because, like, you know, it's like, get drunk, get buzz, get blah, 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 blah. Like, he says that.
Yeah, the radio is get.
That's what I'm saying. Did they block those words out, too?
Yeah.
Because it's like, get buzz, get drunk, get crunk, get words I can't say on this podcast.
Yeah, the radio edit is hilarious.
That's funny. Now, I do like Eminem. And if I had to pick an Eminem song that I liked My Band. So he did this thing. He had like a band that he performed with for a while. I don't remember all the details about it, but they were called D12. And it's like a hip hop collective band of people. They were in the early 90s and Eminem was part of it. There's Proof, there was Bizarre, somebody else. I can't remember exactly. I'm always huge, but they did a song called My Band. And that is probably my favorite Eminem song for those out there who like Eminem. But to be fair, he's not really rapping on that song. That one's more of like a speaking kind of song.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I said I've only ever heard one song by him.
Fair enough. And it really, I just like it because it's like, these chicks don't even know the name of my band. That's the chorus. That's really all I know from it. But anyway, well, I'm glad you brought him into your realm, Tim, and embraced him for the podcast. I'll just say that.
There we are. I thought I would speak about all the musicians inducted, and it came up. There you go.
I just like that. That's the one song you know from it. right. I don't know. How many artists do we have left, Tim?
We have a few left, not too many, but we'll go through them all.
Well, let's go through them. Okay.
So this is the big one. I mean, I'm saving it to somewhere near the end.
I figured this one was coming.
Dolly Rebecca Parton.
I've heard of her before.
Yes, she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There was some controversy that she didn't want to be inducted because she said I am not a rock and roll artist. And then I think there was something went backwards and forwards. And I think in the end she accepted the induction, which she did because she performed. And then she decided that to celebrate this, she was going to come out with a rock album.
Of course she did. I love it.
And in fact, for the ceremony, she debuted a brand new song she wrote specially for the induction ceremony, just called "Rockin'." And she said, her quote was, "It's a fine little song, and it's really rocky. Something I'll have to have fun to play off and to ease some of the tension," she said.
I saw a headline where she's like, "I'm a rock star now." Yeah. She's so cute. I love that she's just like, well, I guess I'm going to have to embrace it if they're going to make me do that.
Exactly. But she was there. She was rocking out. And the guitar community was alight about this because she is playing an electric guitar. She doesn't normally play electric guitar, but she's playing an electric guitar. And it's like bejeweled and it matches her kind of rock outfit, but it's a $99 Guitar Center Mitchell guitar. Now, the average price for a decent electric guitar, $1,500, £2,000, mm-hmm. That kind of price, £1,500 maybe, for your average good quality electric guitar. But I said, this is a $99 Guitar Center special. And everyone's like, wow, if it's good enough for Dolly, I mean, it's good enough for anyone.
I love that. So have you seen the thing about Steve Perry, though? He's on the album. Steve Perry singing on Dolly's rock album.
Oh, really? That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were going for. So he tweeted, "If Dolly says it's true, then it must be true. Her voice is amazing." Steve Perry. And like, he's on the album. He's singing. I don't know if he's singing lead. I only saw like a bit and pieces of it. But yeah, Steve Perry was tapped to appear on the album. I'm assuming he did because he tweeted about it. But yeah, there you go, everybody.
That is absolutely fantastic. And the other great thing about the induction ceremony, there was the All-Star Jam, as there often is at these events. Yeah. And it was Jolene.
Of course.
The Zac Brown Band were her backing band. And she had Simon Le Bon singing with her, Annie Lennox, Pink, Sheryl Crow Band, Brandi Carlile,
love that.
Pat Benatar were all singing with her on Jolene, which all of those are not a huge stretch. However, Rob Halford from Judas Priest was singing Jolene with her.
I mean, to be fair, Jolene is one of those songs that, like, I don't know anyone who doesn't know it, so I'm sure he's probably heard it 1,000 times with the rest of us.
Of course. I mean, Rob Halford is a man of the world. How could you not have heard like Jolene, and how could you not have liked Jolene? But it's just a very funny visual to see Dolly and Rob Halford from Judas Priest standing next to each other singing Jolene.
And it would be a competition to see who had the most studs and rhinestones on their outfit.
Well, I mean, both of them were dressed more or less identically.
I love that. That's amazing. It's like they're just like counting to see who has the most rhinestones on their outfit. I mean, that's the only way. I was watching something. She made a joke the other day. I don't know. You know what I love about Dolly is when she was on, I don't know, I think it was Jimmy Fallon and made a joke. And she was I can't remember all the details, but she told this whole story to make the joke. And I mean, she sold about it. He was following the story and he goes, "Man, what happened?" And like the line at the end came, but she's so dedicated when she does jokes and stuff. Have you ever seen her, Tim, when she does that? It's amazing. Like she can sell literally anything. You know, you could sell sand to someone in the desert. That'd be her. Yeah, she can do that because she has, not only is she a great musician and she's a great person, she's a good storyteller, which is what comes out in her music, but she's funny. She's really funny.
Yeah, she is. As we've mentioned many times before on this podcast, Dolly can do no wrong.
This is true. What would you do? Would you go see a stand-up? If she did a stand-up comedy show, would you go see it, Tim?
Oh, I would. 100%.
If nothing else, just to say I went.
Every time I go to Dollywood and I go to those shows, I always hope it's the day that Dolly is at those shows, because she routinely, I would say routinely, but once in a while, the theatre shows they have at Dollywood, who is sometimes Dolly will join them on stage, and that's happened many times. And I always hope is today going to be the day when Dolly's going to walk on?
My friend back in high school, this is years ago, she's actually my cousin too, but she went to high school with me. She was talking, she went to Dollywood one year and they had one of the parades. Dolly was there at the parade while she was there. Just happened to be while she was there.
Yeah, it's never the day that I go.
Well, I'll call and see if I can get that schedule for you, because I have her on speed dial.
Well, of course. I mean, obviously.
Obviously, she talks to me every day. I mean, come on.
Exactly.
Did we pick a song for Dolly? Did you say a song? Did we even get there?
Well, I have got a song picked out.
I don't know if we said it.
It's her famous first crossover hit from 1977, Here You Come Again.
Which is probably my favorite Dolly song. I love her crossover hits and those 70s albums when she did the crossover stuff. I love it. But Here You Come Again is one of my tops for sure. Because every time when I think of Dolly, my brain just goes, here you come again. Like, that's like the intro to a song that comes to mind when I think of Dolly Parton.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's probably 9 to 5. Sometimes I get obsessed with Islands in the Stream.
Oh, yeah, we've talked about the island. You're not the only one, because even my twin sister said she did that too. Where you go on that weird thing where you listen to Islands in the Stream like 3 times a day for like 6 months or something. Yeah,
and it just won't go. It's like you wake up in the morning, so what am I going to listen to? Islands in the Stream.
And you're like, why am I so addicted to this? But I love Dolly and Kenny together. I think they're one of the greatest combos you can get in the world.
Oh, and I recently bought a Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton Christmas album in a thrift shop, and I cannot wait for December when I'm going to start listening to that album.
When Kenny passed away, I literally felt my heart like sink for Dolly Parton. I was like, oh my God, it's been our best friend forever. Because they said they've been best friends forever. And I just felt so, my heart like fell out of my chest for her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, anyway, now that we talked about something sad, I love Dolly Parton. Moral of the story.
Okay, so the next artist is Harry Belafonte.
Okay.
Is that someone that you're familiar with, Harry Belafonte?
I mean, not a super, like, I won't say like I'm a big Belafonte fan, but I know who he is and I know some of his music. He was Jamaican. And I think that, like he was a big activist at some point, but I know he was like known for being one of the first like Jamaican American kind of Caribbean music. He made a big splash in that field.
Yeah, and not the song that I picked out, but one of the iconic songs from Harry Belafonte is that Banana Boat song that goes, Day-o, Day-o.
Do you know, if you had to have one guess, who do you think's obsessed with that song, Tim? My husband. And he likes to yell that at me. I hear the Banana Boat song all the time. More than anyone should ever have to hear the Banana Boat song. Love it. Love me some Calypso, but come on. And Charlie doesn't know the whole song. That's the parts he knows, and he just screams them at me.
Well, tell him he needs to learn all the rest of the lyrics.
I mean, and then the jump in the line. Lord, I know that one too. Yeah, so really I know Harry Belafonte from Charlie.
But there we are. Well, the song that I picked out of him is Mary's Boy Child, which is a Christmas song because we are heading into that Christmas season.
So I didn't know he did a version of it. I do now, but at first, do you know the version I heard the first time was the Boney M version?
Yeah, I know that version, probably from the 70s. I mean, yeah, they very famously covered that song.
Because, it's got that kind of, I guess, Caribbean kind of thing going for it. Because, long time ago with Bethlehem to the Holy Bible, blah, blah, that kind of sound. I had heard their version a lot. And then I don't know what I was doing, but I was clicking through something or listening to a holiday playlist or whatever. And his version come on. And I was like, oh, wait a second. That's the same song.
Yeah.
Didn't know. Is he the original?
Well, his version is from 1957, so if it's not the original, it's somewhere near that, I would imagine.
It's kind of hard to know because, like, Christmas music gets handed down so much, right?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's covering everything on Christmas albums, it seems.
But I will say I am one of those people that if I have to listen, it's hard to find a new age Christmas song that I like. I'd rather listen to classics.
Well, as we know, the greatest Christmas song of all time is Waitress's Christmas Wrapping.
Nothing will ever beat that. Nothing will ever beat that. I'm sorry, Mariah Carey.
I mean, there's Wham's Last Christmas, and there's The Darkness Had That Christmas Time, Don't Let the Bells End, which is basically a dick joke, basically. But
it's true. I never thought about it. That's the first on the podcast, but you're right. Yeah, but I will say the Christmas Wrapping is the best Christmas song, period.
Yeah, well, absolutely 100%. Listeners, tell me if I'm wrong, but that is by far the best Christmas song of all time.
Don't come for me, Internet, but do, because I'm curious to see what you have to say.
Yeah, please come for joy, Internet.
Oh, God, don't tell them that. I'm going to hear about how 74 things I've said in the last 3 podcasts were wrong. I did my research on Google. Blame Google, not me. I don't know everything. But yeah, I mean, it's a good song. I haven't really heard it in a while. Like I said, I feel like the one I hear the most, though, is the Boney M version.
Yeah. But as I know, you're a big fan of Boney M.
Even though they didn't do any of their own music.
I mean, why should they, for goodness sake?
That's true. I was listening to Rasputin, so I was listening to a playlist right before we started while I was making dinner, and Rasputin was on it, and then I'm holding out for a hero, so... It's quality playlists.
I was listening to Whitney Houston this morning and Europe.
That's a quality song, too.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong with Whitney, really.
No, it's I Want to Dance with Somebody. And what I noticed about that song is not Nile Rodgers playing guitar in it, but it has a funky Nile Rodgers guitar part buried in the mix. And if you listen in headphones, it's one part is playing one ear and one part's playing in the other. I'd never noticed it before. And I was like, this is the best thing ever. Whoever who played on this is great.
Well, did you figure out who played on it, or have you given it a Goog?
No, I haven't looked up yet. I will give it a Goog after the show.
We'll have to report back next week. We need all the details. This is how we keep them coming back, Tim. Part 2 next week. And we'll also tell you how air conditioners work in France or something. I don't know.
You could honestly never know.
And by work in France, I mean they don't, because no one has an air conditioner. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
Boom.
I ruined the surprise.
Okay, well let's close this episode out with the last artist or artists.
All right.
So this isn't an actual artist, a performer, but these are producers. This is Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, who are famous record producers. Mm-hmm. They put their production and songwriting skills together, and they formed a production company called Flight Time Productions in 1982. And they'd worked with, Gladys Knight and SOS Band and some other bands at that time. Mm-hmm. But their big break really was when they got together with Janet Jackson in 1986, and they came out with the album Control.
Yep. And I mean, she had the best hair and outfit of anyone ever in the Control album.
Absolutely. And Control was one of those albums I remember growing up. It is absolutely fantastic. Every track on it is a hit. And they call this style New Jack Swing, but I wouldn't really call it that. It is heavy pop. It's almost like those tracks are almost like metal in some respect, hard rock, but in a pop style.
So for me, what I think of when I think of the Control, if I were trying to tailor down a genre, how I would explain it to someone who's never heard it is I think of it as pop music, but it's like pop music with a layer to it. It kind of does give in kind of like a dark, almost like you're saying, like a metal type sound to it. Mm-hmm. So it is pop music. It is upbeat because, Control is kind of one of the darker, like the actual song Control. It's a little bit darker. Obviously, that's the name of the album too, but it kind of meets that weird, funky meet between pop music, R&B and soul, and almost like you're saying, a layering of like a rock sound, which Michael kind of did that with the Bad album too. Mm-hmm. So I think it kind of played that kind of sound is that's how I would describe it. It's
exactly.
my best way of going about it.
And the other interesting thing is I listened to an NPR thing about Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, and they said that they were offered a number of artists they wanted to produce, and Janet Jackson was on that list, and they said, "Yeah, Janet, that's the one." Boom! And what they did is that they met with Janet, and then they had like recording time booked, and they just hung out with her for about 2 or 3 weeks. They didn't record a single note. They go out to restaurants with her, go out to a club with her, hang out with her. And at the end of that period, they're like, "Well, when are we going to start writing songs?" And they said, "We've been writing them all week. We've just been listening to you."
Yeah, because that would be a great way for you to learn who she is as an artist, because that album and all of those kind of songs like Nasty, Control, all of that kind of stuff, you have to have a certain personality to pull that off for it to work well, because it's a very direct, you know what I mean, kind of in your face type thing. So if you hung out with her, you ate dinner with her, you knew who she was as a person, you know, What Have You Done For Me Lately, I think is like the opening to Control. You got Nasty, When I Think of You. It's one of my favorite
What have you
albums.
done for me lately? That was she was just ranting about a boyfriend or something like that, and over talking to these guys, and then they're there, it's all going in there, and then the song, and then when she went to perform the song, she's like, I see what you did.
It's so smart. It makes sense though from a producer's standpoint. Now I have to wonder, is his name really Jimmy Jam? That seems like his stage name.
His name is James Harris III, and the other gentleman is Terry Lewis. But his name is Jimmy Jam.
Jimmy Jam seems unlikely, but if he were born with that name, he definitely was going to go into record producing. Anyway, it's still one of my favorite jokes on Family Guy. Still, when he's like talking about Alicia Keys, he's like, her last name can't be Keys. That's like if I were a guitar player, my name is Tommy Guitar. And he goes, wait, no, now I want to be Tommy Guitar. So that's what I think of when I hear Jimmy Jam. I'm like, there's no way that's... I will say, though, Nasty and What Have You Done For Me Lately, 2 of the best tracks of all time. Both those, bar none.
Absolutely. But I will say the song that I've picked out for Control is When I Think of You. And there's 2 reasons I've picked it out. Well, 3. Well, one, it's great. Obviously from 1986. One, the video is shot in one take. I don't know if you knew that. If you go back and watch it, the whole thing is one take. And there's a bit in it towards the end of the song where she laughs. Mm-hmm. You know the bit I mean? She goes, ha, 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 feels so good inside. That was not supposed to be on the recording. And when they were making the take, I think something made her laugh and she laughed and they kept it in.
That's awesome. I do know the video is choreographed by Paula Abdul.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me because she was doing a lot of choreography at the time. The other thing they said when on this NPR piece that I listened to, they said that it was very common at the time, and probably even now, that you take the breathiness out of vocals when people breathe in to sing. You would gate that, and by gating, when you're recording, if you have a gate, it shuts the volume off, so only peaks above a certain amount. The gate comes open, then you can hear it. So they didn't gate a lot of her vocals, so you get a lot of breathiness in the way that she sings. And it was left in very deliberately to create that sound that you get for Janet Jackson.
I was going to say, you could use that, though, as a technique to make a sound for a person, and that's really smart, too. And there you go. I mean, and she does have a very, well, and this album, too, like even What I Think of You, Control, all those songs, that breathiness, I think is important because it's like a storytelling album. Mm-hmm. So it makes it seem more genuine and real on top of building her signature sound, right? And that's one thing, whenever someone's performing live and you hear that breathiness, sometimes it throws you off because you don't hear that sometimes in the recording, especially if you don't have a great sound person doing sound for the show or whatever. But for her, she doesn't have to worry about it. It kind of works.
Exactly. But there we go. Well, that wraps up our 2022 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees.
I mean, I think it was a pretty good year.
Yeah. I mean, I think I considered doing this last year or maybe the year before.
I have no idea how long we have been doing the podcast for.
Yeah, I considered doing this in 1994. No, I considered doing it last year.
Yeah.
And I looked at the inductee list, and it was a lot of people I didn't really have anything much to say about. But this year, I was able to, all of them, speak intelligently about to some degree.
Fair enough. All right. Well, Tim, what do you want to leave the people with?
Just please be kind.
As always, be kind. Bye.
Bye-bye. See you later. Bye-bye.
To remind me of another day to love.